Welcome to Getting Ghosted, an intuitive, soul collective podcast. I'm your host, Allie Horner. Welcome back, everyone. I am ready to do a mediumship episode this week. I've got the guides here to answer some questions, and they said they want to kind of put a reminder out there for everyone who's new to this, that this is actually where we began. This is actually my core work has to do with channeling and mediumship, and that is the bones of this show. You know, they talk about a house having good bones. That is the bones of this. That is the foundation of this. That's where we started from. So what we're going to be covering today is a little bit more on mediumship, intuition. I had posted a TikTok just yesterday, and there were actually quite a few questions on it. And the guides were like, we want to kind of recap what's in there for the people who don't, like TikTok, aren't on TikTok. And then they wanted to answer a bunch of the questions. They were like, we really think a lot of people had some good questions on here about the other side, about the afterlife, and about things that have been going on and how things work. So without further ado, here we go. Now, just as a recap, when someone dies, we really re-emerge into the spiritual plane, and they call it home. Like, we go back home. And this home is where we come from, and this is where we go back to. So there is no one, and they said no one gets stuck, no one ends up anywhere else. And they said this is a long, long point of contention amongst people. And the belief in a hell or another place actually comes out of Christianity. It comes out of organized religion, and we have to remember organized religions have their tentacles, like Christianity has its tentacles in everything. It's really hard for a lot of us to see outside of it. But in essence, we all essentially go back to one energetic point. It's not even just a place, it's an energetic state of pure beingness. And this pure beingness is bliss and love and peace. Because of this, your loved ones don't end up somewhere else. And they said, regardless of how they died, whether they took their own life, whether they died by accident, died traumatically, whether they died of cancer, no matter how they pass, we all go back to the same one place. We all reemerge into a non-physical form. Because when you die, you leave the physical behind. And they said it's really a physics thing. So you shed anything that is associated with the human world, with the physical world, anything that's associated with physicality, right? With a material structure, right? Because we're leaving this dimensional space and we're going into a place that's beyond dimensional availability, right? And so that non-physical form, when you die, is everything, everyone, everywhere, everyone, to the point where we're all one again. And so this energy, because it's no longer physical density, it's higher and brighter vibration. And it is this pure, blissful, loving state. So think about when you feel really good, how do you describe that feeling? People will say like, oh, I feel so light on my feet. And then when people feel bad, when they feel grief, when they feel anger, they'll say, oh, I'm just feeling really low, or I'm really down today. Oh, that's heavy, right? Used to be an expression way back when. And so think about that. Like Erik's kind of pointing out, he said vibrationally, these denser, heavier emotions exist in the physical form only. They're human projections. They're human encounters. So when someone passes, they no longer are in that vibration. They literally physically can't be, because they're no longer in a physical form. They no longer carry that energy. So when we pass, he's like, it's almost like we shift out of that, and instead of sitting under the water, we're on top of it and above it, and like up into, we're like, he said, think about it like water can take on all these different forms, right? And so he was like, when it's pure air, there's none of that physical density anymore. He's like, kind of think about spirit like that. It's air, right? Whereas humans are more like ground, earth, water, like, you know what I mean? Rain, things like that. There's a heaviness to them. He said, try to kind of put it from that perspective. So because of this, your loved ones, if they had any feelings, they were holding grudges, they were carrying a lot of shame, anger, fear, resent, heaviness, sadness, depression, these things don't go with us when we pass, because we reemerge into a pure energetically all loving, omniscient, so all knowing, omnipresent state of being. We go beyond the physical confines of time, space, dimension, and reality. And because of this, and because they reemerge into this all knowingness, they no longer have judgment. So there's no grudges to hold. There's no anger to hang on to. So when we emerge into this non-physical space, this is where we release a lot of those previous judgments, strongly held beliefs, opinions, fears, etc., that we would have had in our human physical form. Those things are no longer necessary after you pass, because when you pass, there's no longer any need to self-protect. And again, when you reemerge into this, he's showing like this all-encompassing white light, and this white light is hovering way, way, way up. And he said, this is the best way I can give this to a human visually so that they can understand. And then there's these cords of light that wrap down, and they go and connect to each person. And then each person is also connected to each other through cords of light. And he said, so when you pass, it's like someone beams back up, like, beam me up, Scotty. And they reemerge because it's not like a body floating up. It's like they kind of turn into this white light, and they reemerge with the larger white light. They're no longer just an individual energy. But as a whole, that white light, it is what we all are already. We've just forgotten. Our physical form is in 3D, so it's very physical. It's very pointed, right? And so when we're in this white light experience, we remember, oh yeah, I'm not separate from anything, anyone, anywhere, anywhen. And then in essence, we also can remember each individual lifetime we've had in this Parch Trippy. We have had and lived all lifetimes, anywhere, anywhen. There aren't just individual streams of lifetimes. So we don't want to get too heady with it. He's like, people get really like mind fucked by this. So, but in essence, so your loved ones don't take that negativity with them, and any judgments they had of you or others, etc., they don't carry that with them. We all have a life review when we get back. So we get to kind of see it. It's almost like a panoramic view where it kind of like stretches almost around in a big sphere or circle. You get to witness and relive every single memory that you have had, not only from your own perspective, but also from the perspective of the people and things and even places in some instances that you impacted. You will feel exactly what they felt, and you will see exactly how you impacted everything, but it all happens in the blink of an eye. And so your loved ones, if there was someone on earth who really had a lot of wonderful things that they did, they get to relive all of those loving memories, but fully, without this physical body or physical senses to block out all that love that people wanted to send them. And so everything we feel on earth is like a fraction of what we would feel in terms of love and bliss and energy and spirit. Okay. And then on top of that, anything that they did to harm anyone, even unintentionally, they feel it tenfold how they made that other person feel. Okay. And it is a true empathy experience. It's like they're completely in it, completely merged with it. There is no separation from them and anything else, because that's what happens when you're liberated from the body. Now, that said, if you're in your physical form and you're listening to this podcast, it's because you're supposed to be in the physical form. You came here for a purpose. You came here for a good reason. There's no reason to try to check out early. But like, if you're here, you're meant to be here. So they don't give us these messages to try to get us to that other world faster. They do so that you're not concerned about your loved ones or worried about your loved ones on the other side. Because one of the questions we get a lot is, are they okay? Did they make it? Yes, everyone makes it okay. No one gets stuck. Everyone is all right. And another piece of it is, if there were grudges, again, that were held between you and a loved one, if you die, if they pass while they're estranged from you or holding really big grudges against family, maybe they put contentious things in their will, they have a very different spiritual perspective than they would have had when they were here on earth. And often a lot of people's loved ones come through and they express unconditional love and support for you and for other family members when they get to the spiritual form. They go, oh my God, if I had known better, I wouldn't have done that. If I had let more of the love in, I would not have made these decisions. I would not have done these things. They don't make any excuses for it. They don't try to explain themselves the way a human would, try to justify or defend. It's like all that defensiveness is gone. Even in the most defensive people here on the planet, what will often happen in a reading is they'll show me, here's who I was and here's how I acted. So it validates your memory, your experience with them. But they will also share how they recognized, oh my God, I never meant to make this person feel this way. Or sometimes they did try to make a person feel that way. And now in their spiritual form, they're like, I am so sorry. And they provide that because they want you to know they recognize it, they acknowledge it, they're not making any excuses for it, they know it was wrong when they were alive, and in their spiritual form, they're giving you their unconditional love, kindness, and support from the spiritual form. That said, if someone was really harmful on earth, if they were abusive, if they killed someone, if they tried to justify their actions, if they harmed and assaulted other people, what often happens in the spiritual world, and this can kind of vary from spirit to spirit in their experience as part of the larger whole, they are still welcomed back home. They're still given their life review and everything, because that's an important part of them with the empathizing and all of that. They also see all of their past lives. They see the whole map of potential future plans and lifetimes that they could move into, where they may very well play the opposing role. Right. And they also spend a lot of their spiritual experience trying to help people that they've harmed, trying to, they won't project their energy in and cross boundaries. Right. They will spend a lot of time, for example, if one person showed me, that they had been bullied really badly and they had ended up harming a lot of people because they had been bullied. And one of the things they said was, now, because I was bullied, it wasn't an excuse for me harming other people. And when I was alive, I couldn't see that. And so now what I'm doing in my spiritual experience is I'm making up for that. I jump in different parts of the planet, and I jump in there and I go, hey man, walk away, take a breath. I try to find them mentors. I try to get people to bump into them who would be good people for them to meet, so that they don't go down a bad road where they harm themselves or harm other people. I try to talk to people who were victims of bullying, and I try to get them into some good mentorship, and I try to send them energy so that they can boost their self-esteem. I try to, help them find some other roads, help them find safer and more empowering people to be around. And they said, I try to get in there, but there's only so much we can do because we're not allowed to interfere, right? So we can do so much. We can plant seeds. We can send loving energy. We try to help people clarify their minds. But so many people are so entrenched in that energy of fear and that lower vibration, it's hard to reach them, right? So it could take like a million of us, and we're all trying to help. They all have angels trying to help them, trying to help you. But there's only so much we can get through, and that's the energy that's shifting on the planet, and that's why the other side's working so hard. That there's so many more of them than there are of us, and so they are trying to help us greatly. And so, if you did have a loved one who was really harmful, no, they're not going to cross your boundaries and come in if you're not calling them. No, yes, they love you, and no, they're not going to harm you or keep holding stuff against you. From their spiritual perspective, they 100% understand if you have no interest in talking to them. They're not going to crowd in on you. The only thing is, if you ask for them and you're ready in a reading, often they will come through to apologize, to give you their unconditional love and support, to acknowledge the harm that they did, so that you can move forward and live the life that you were meant to live without that trauma and interference there. Okay, so I'm almost getting kind of teary because I've had quite a few readings where people have asked about things like this and asked for loved ones, contentious people in their lives to come through, and harmful people in their lives, and ask, why did this happen to me? Why did they do that? And there's so many different explanations for why things happen on earth, but it's never an excuse for harming anyone, controlling other people, coercing other people, and so anyhow, so when we pass, we don't take those energies with us. In fact, we see things a lot more clearly. And a lot of people, they do come back and they play the opposite role. And in essence, they might have played that opposite role in another lifetime prior to that too. And one of the things the guides talk about is that's one of the things you kind of reemerge into, is that higher awareness of everything all at once. Okay. Now, something else about loved ones is when they pass, everyone gets a welcome home party. And I did mention this in my video. And a lot of people, again, were like, no, not bad people. And I'm like, yes, bad people also get a welcome home. You have to remember they've played a lot of different parts and roles in a lot of different lifetimes. Everyone is welcomed back with open arms. We all come back into the same place. There is no other place that we all go to. Okay. People really struggle with this. They want to believe that people are punished. That's a human need. That's not a spiritual need. Remember, spirit's of very different frequency. It's almost difficult for a lot of us to wrap our heads around. And as like something else I'll mention is when I first went through my reawakening, I had some people come through who had done really bad things on earth and were well-known people who had done bad things. And I was like, I want to talk to you. Don't come through. Like I was like, why are these people coming through? It actually kind of spooked me a little bit and wigged me out. And my guide said, this is an important part in your training for mediumship. We want you to be a clear medium. We want you not to bring a lot of your human belief systems into this. So in order to clarify things, we do have some beings that we want you in your own time to hear out. You don't have to do it right away, but it's going to happen eventually. And I finally went, fine. And I was sitting there like with my arms folded, like, fine, I'll hear what they have to say. But I was not interested. I wasn't interested. This completely conflicted with everything I believed. Okay. And many of them came through and they explained a lot of things that I just explained to you guys about what it's like for them in the afterlife. Some of the people that they hurt or even killed came through with them holding hands, or the people that they had harmed or killed came through and had their hands gently on their backs or on their shoulders, showing that they were supporting them in sharing their side. Not just like, oh, here's why I did what I did. And like, there was no justifying behavior or excuses made. It was more like they were explaining the mechanics of things, how they're spending their afterlife experience. It was very, very interesting to me. And it really blew me out of the water. I'm not going to lie. I had full cognitive dissonance with some of it, where I was like, I can't wrap my head around this. Why would these people want to spend time? You know what I mean? And then I realized from the spiritual perspective, it's very, very different. So I talked to both the victims and I talked to the perpetrators. And it was, like I said, it caused a lot of internal friction for me. But I realized what they were doing was they were working on my vibration and clearing some things out that I would need to have cleared out in order to be a better medium. And when you become a medium and you're really clearly channeling, these are a lot of the things that get kind of cleared out and rinsed out of your energy. And often I find that when mediums are still in these kind of us or them, either or, heaven or hell type of belief systems, it's because they haven't done a lot of their trauma work. Often they haven't done a lot of the therapy that is needed. I had to do a lot of that. Personal development has to go with your spiritual awakening, or your spiritual awakening is going to push the trauma to the surface and it's going to crowd in on your readings. I could do entire podcast episodes about this, but it's something I teach in a lot of my courses as well, that we have to make sure we're doing that deeper work on our belief systems, our traumas. People call it shadow work. I don't think you should do this with someone who just says they do shadow work. You need to find a licensed therapist and someone who knows therapeutically how to walk you in and walk you through and walk you back out in one piece. Okay. And unfortunately, a lot of practitioners just they're not trained. There are a lot of licensed therapists who are getting trained in esoteric spiritual perspectives and principles though. So find some people who are trained in the Eastern and the Western, okay, who get the ups and the downs, the ins and the outs. Now, in addition, something with the welcome home parties as well is I have seen so many wonderful things in welcome home parties. People have showed me, you know how like in Titanic, when Rose passes, finally, she walks back through the doors and the Titanic and Jack's there and he's dressed up and waiting for her. That is very similar to what I'm shown a lot. I'm shown people emerging through doors and there are people standing in two columns where they walk down the middle and everyone's clapping for them. I often see balloons. I see chandeliers. It kind of depends on the person's life, their family, all of that. But there will be people there to welcome you back that you did not even meet in this lifetime. They're not even from this lifetime. The spiritual world is so much more supportive and so much bigger than we could ever imagine. People's higher yourselves who are still alive will be there. Your pets will be there. So we all have this really beautiful welcome home that happens. A lot of you have already heard this story as well, but you're also greeted by people that you loved, or people that love you who are there to take you back home. So guardian angels, grandparents, parents who have passed, loved ones who have passed, even your pets. And so many of you have heard this before, but our spirit guide Sam, when he passed, he had in this lifetime worked on a ranch. And he had loved taking care of the animals. He had seen a lot of the cycles of life and death, obviously. But he was greeted by, like he showed me immediately when he died, it was like a swarm of animals running toward him. It was like a washing over of excitement and love. Like everyone was like, "You're home, like you're back. Welcome. We've been waiting." And it was so like, I almost started sobbing because it was like this reemergence and just being welcomed into loving and ecstatic arms. And it was so fun. Like I was like, oh my God, I had never seen anything like that before from the spirit world. And he was like, oh yeah, pigs and ducks and cows and chickens and dogs and squirrels. And there was a baby bunny that I had nursed back to health and like, bottle fed it basically. Like I was like, oh my God, like it was just so fun and so beautiful. And so you really will be welcomed in such a beautiful, beautiful way. And I found that a lot of people have, it kind of depends on that person. Sometimes it's one person gently walking them, but it's like a reemergence. All of a sudden, like there's a non-physical aspect of it where you're no longer seeing anyone. You kind of sense and know that they're there. And for a lot of people, it can be a huge group. And so it kind of depends, right? But everyone is welcomed home. Everyone is brought back into, it's like a loving embrace. But again, you no longer have a physical form. So it's bigger than what we imagine as a loving embrace. It's far more encompassing, all feeling. Feel like, try to imagine if someone that you deeply loved and cared about came in and hugged you, but all the way through the center of your body, from your heart on out. And you could feel it in every fiber of your being, where it like takes your breath away. That's more what it's like. And that's still just a fraction of what they feel when they reemerge. And so, yeah. Now moving on, one of the things they said they want to talk about is a lot of people get worried like, well, if I call them in, am I bothering them? No, you're not bothering them. If I call them in, am I keeping them from doing things that they need to do or visiting other loved ones who need them or having their heavenly experience? No, because they're no longer in a physical form. They can be anywhere and everywhere all at once. Many of them visit other galaxies, other planets, other lifetimes. They zoom in and out. They spend time with people that they didn't even know, helping them, guiding them, sending them love. This is what we all do in the spiritual form. We can be anywhere and everywhere all at once. So we're not limited to our physical form anymore. It's very difficult for humans to understand or even fathom. But we're omniscient and omnipresent. So we're everywhere and anywhere possible, right? And so the closest people get to this is like, Erik's like, maybe transcendental meditation. He's like, kind of like got his hand under his chin, like he's looking up and he's thinking like, he's like, maybe transcendental meditation, or that feeling like when you're coming out of waking, like falling asleep, or like kind of slightly waking up, but you're in like a lucid, dreamy type of state, maybe that. And he's like, or the feeling of flying, but even then you're still personified, so it's not quite it. Like, he's like, but it's like that feeling when you're like, not bound by your body when you're in a deep, deep meditation, or like almost like super, super, super sleepy. You feel like you're like floating, right? And he's like, it's kind of like that. And he said, people do this all the time in the human space. They're able to remote view things. And it's almost like they're an omniscient presence. They're not always a physical form projected. He says, kind of like that. He said people are getting closer to this in the human form when they're using mediumship and intuition. So knowing things beyond what's logically right there in front of you to see, to know, to hear, to feel, that's part of tapping into that state of being, that omniscience, that omnipresence. He goes, you dig? And he's connecting like mind to mind, pointing back and forth. And I'm like, yeah, I get you. I feel you. And so he said, now the cool thing is that consciousness is kind of exploring itself, and how it does that is through the human physical form, and also through animal form and plant form. And he's like listing pointing to each of his fingers, listing on his fingers, 1, 2, 3. He's going through everything, and he's like, in water. Now he's wandering off, and he's thinking and talking, and he's like, the stars, the planets, and he's like, oh yeah, and that planetary system, and this galaxy, and this being, and that being, and he's like, it's all just consciousness expressing itself in 1,000 little ways. And he said, and that's why we mean it's just love in every form. And that's what we really are. And that is our state of home that everyone is longing for. That's the state that we are all trying to embody here on the planet. And he said, now that all said, your loved ones, of course, can hear you, and they can, of course, be here and there and everywhere, because we're never outside of that form. And so in addition, when you're calling on them, he's like, we love talking to you guys. You're not pestering us. We're sitting there waiting. We're like, finally, you noticed me here. He's like, so if you're thinking to call on us, it's probably because we're already here, already making contact. We're coming in a little bit closer in consciousness, energetically, we're a little more in your physical space. So it's kind of like when the tide rolls in and it hits your feet, it's kind of like that. He's like, that's the closest thing I can give to it. You're more aware of it. Like, you're like, oh, I feel that. That's a little chilly, or that's a little cold. And he's like, so sometimes you get the nudge to reach out to a loved one, or you're thinking of them because we're already nearby. And he's like, we're at the door. We're hanging out. We're sitting there eating our popcorn, watching TV with you, patting you on the hand, sitting there trying to hold your hand like, it's all right. It's all right. We're right here. I'm not gone. I'm right here. I'm right here with you, Mom, And so he said it's a hard thing to conceptualize to humans, because you're so entrenched in your physical form that a lot of you guys don't get that what you can't see and hear and feel, it may not already be there. And even the most clairvoyant among you has, tons of beings who are sending unconditional love and guidance to them all the time, but they're not tuning into it. Like he goes, he said, Allie's got her door closed all the time. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm here to be here. And he goes, right, you are. And so he's like, and we respect that. We respect that boundary. We're not here to entrench on, encroach on your world or rain on your parade or do anything like that. And he said, no, you don't have to be afraid though of us missing anything. Like we don't miss life events. We don't miss what's going on there. All of us already know the world that you're in. We know what's going on the planet. You don't have to explain things to us, but we will gladly sit and listen all day and all night if you want to tell us about everything. We love hearing it through your voice. And he said, we know what you're going to say before you say it, because we're more telepathic, but we will still sit there and engage in conversation with you because we relish that. We love that. We know it's important for you. It's important for us. We love you guys. So of course we'll do it. He goes, but that said, you never have to say, hey, did you see that I got married? Of course we saw. We were right there. But you can ask us anyways. We don't mind. Right? And he's like, and you don't have to explain like, well, I can't do this because this is going on in the world. He's like, if you start to do that, we might give you an alternate perspective or a higher perspective, because again, we're omniscient. We're all knowing. We can help you see things that you wouldn't see. We can help you understand things or get a bird's eye view of things so that you don't have to be worried or scared about certain things that you think in your human experience, like you're more limited in your perspective, right? You're limited in your knowledge. And a lot of you don't realize how limited you are in your knowledge. You're very assumptive. And he's like, I get it. I was human. Like I get you. And he's like, but your guides and your loved ones can give you a higher perspective or a behind the scenes peek. So for example, recently I was like trying to book a trip, right? And I was like I could feel some of the human stuff going on in the human collective energy. Human collective energy is always full of thoughts and fears and looping and questions and confusion and back and forth. People, overanalyzing things, making decisions, wondering, positing, questions and blah, blah, blah. Spirit is not like that. So when you're connected to the wavelength of spirit, it's going to be loving, clear, bright. The same answer will usually come through over and over, because it's like, it's often like the way that they see it and what they're saying, it always rings true. Like, and I've noticed that like when it's spirit, it's not going to be loud. It's going to be quiet and subtle. And they will often work through your intuition more than anything. And often signs and synchronicities, because they're less intrusive. Okay. So ideas that pop in your head, little nudges or inklings that you get to do things. Often they work through other people. And so other people, reaching out to you, mentioning the right thing at the right time, saying something to you, sharing something with you. nudging you toward a book that you might read, to Google something at the right time. So for me, I ended up Googling flights right at the right time and got a really good deal. And my guides, I'd been thinking about it for a month and had kind of had it in my brain because I wasn't really listening as well. And I could hear what they were saying. And then there were clearly what my thoughts and my confusion was over my trip. So all of a sudden they were like, I kept getting this grating, heavy ick feeling every time I'd go to look at flights. And I would feel like, I know this feeling, and it's because it's not the right time to book them. And I would tell my guides, well, am I not supposed to go? And they were like, no, you're supposed to go. Remember what we said? And I was like, okay, I'll wait for the right timing. All of a sudden one night I had looked at flights that morning. Okay. And I was like, oof, I don't love the prices on these. Like, this is just, I don't know what this is, but I don't love it. And I got that ick feeling. Later that night, all of a sudden I felt it. It was like a yank or a pull, a clear blue feeling inside of my body. And I look online and the flight prices had changed. And I went, huzzah. And that's when I went, this is it. This is time. And it felt like someone had put their hands on my shoulders and it was a clear, light, bright feeling. And I had this energy coming through. I won't get into details because it's not really mine to share, but it was someone who had recently passed, and they said, you never know how much time you get on earth. None of us knows. We're not guaranteed time. Book the trip. And I could feel it clear as day. And I went, thank you. Thank you for that perspective. You're right. And so right after that, I booked everything. And I had to sense that feeling. And I'm also, I very psychically sense energy as well. So I can sense when a timing is right. And I don't always get that right. Like I get in my head too. Like I get in that lower frequency too. But our loved ones on the other side, they will bring through that higher perspective, that moment of clarity, help us see beyond our fears, help us get out of the human confused collective energy or our old thoughts and patterns and traumas. And they will it's almost like they lift us up and they're like, yo, look at it from the bird's eye view. There's nothing to be hesitant or worried about here. There's a right time and place to do things. And sometimes your energy changes what that right time and place is. Your perception changes things. So it was a beautiful, beautiful encounter with this young man. And I'm really grateful that this happened. And all of a sudden the next day, I woke up with all of these bright new ideas about how to do this, which I'll share more about in another podcast episode because some of these are still in motion. But that's how I know. That's how I know I've shifted frequency. And when we tune in with our loved ones on the other side, we don't always have to hear them talking or see them in the room with us. Often we don't. We just have to let that loving energy in. Even those loved ones who we were contentious with or people that we didn't know very well can send us clarity and insight and help to clear our field and clear our mind and get the right answers in. And so that we move forward. So that's what your loved ones spend a lot of time in heaven doing. They also for them, that's not work. It's not a job. A lot of them do have sort of jobs or things that they enjoy doing. They might be painting, making pottery. From a spiritual perspective, they may be guiding people. I will do a whole episode on spiritual jobs. I think I've talked about them more before in TikToks, but I'll do a whole episode on that. But jobs to them aren't jobs, but it's like there's no obligation, but they do this work that they do from a spiritual perspective out of pure love and pure enjoyment. When they are coming in, guiding, counseling people, it's because they love it. When they are helping someone write a book, it's because they want to. When they are giving people hints about innovations and cultural shifts and things that can help the planet or help other people, guiding people to do acts of kindness or to come up with a brand new meal or to solve the world hunger crisis, or get back into woodworking, it's because they love it. Like there's nothing else they would rather be doing at that moment. So if you have someone guiding you, helping you, supporting you from the other side, you don't need to feel guilty like you are making them like it's a job. It's not like how humans have jobs to survive. Think about it. They're in spirit. They no longer need to survive. There's nothing they need to do. They're doing it because they love it. Okay. And then again, this is all like a higher consciousness expressing itself through a million little forms. So when they're doing these things, it's because they want to. Okay. When they're coming through and channeled transmissions and things like that, it's because they want to. It's because that's something they would love to do. they've agreed to do that. In many cases, many of them agreed to do it before they even started this lifetime. That was something they said, I want to do this. I want to accomplish this. This is something I want to bring into the higher realms of consciousness. This is something I want to bring into the human collective. And it's because they want to. And want for them is connected to love, and not love like romantic love, like pure, unencumbered, the heights of blissful love. And bliss is not a bad thing. When people are blissed out, they don't hurt anyone. Like, really think about it. So now, that all said, your loved ones adore you. Like, they want you, to live an unencumbered life. And so don't be surprised if you start to hear them coming through or feel them coming through after they pass, and suddenly you're getting messages from them, even like your loved ones who were really strict, who were really afraid. Like they were afraid of living. They were afraid of a lot of things when they were alive. They didn't travel. Suddenly they're going to be showing you they're on a jet plane. They're going to show you visuals so that you can understand their spiritual perspective. It doesn't mean they're physically like doing that, because again, they don't have physical form, but energetically, remember, they're anywhere and everywhere all at once. And they all of a sudden remember there was nothing to be afraid of. There was nothing to be scared of with this. Oh my gosh. And so you might feel inspired, just like I did, to suddenly do certain things that you have been holding off on doing out of fear. So you might all of a sudden feel like, you know what? I have stayed in this relationship too long. I've been afraid of moving forward without this person, but suddenly I don't feel afraid anymore, and I'm clear, and I just know that this is the right thing to do. You're going to be more connected to truth, to intuition, and what is truly right, what is energetically aligned. Okay. Even if your previous self and your I call it our ego self. It's not ego as in egotistical, grandiose. It's ego as in small, scared, insecure. It can also be equated to like a protector part if you do parts therapy or anything like that. But sometimes we have a part of us that's trying to protect us so hard that it ends up kind of actually keeping us from living our life in a lot of ways. And so, in essence, sometimes you might feel suddenly inspired or liberated to do certain things like travel. And you might find that your grandmother, who, for example, was so scared she barely left her house, who's now dead and coming through and is like, let's go. She's got her bags packed. She's on a jet plane. You might start getting songs like Leaving on a Jet Plane, and all sorts of things from her. And you're like, gosh, this doesn't sound like her. And it's like, but it's the real her. It's who she was on the other side of her fears. It's who her spirit is saying, here's who I really am. Here's what I would have you do. And so sometimes your loved ones come through, and you will get hits of inspiration, and that's how they're connecting with you. Suddenly you'll feel inspired to change something in your life. And it's like, that is the gift that they're giving you, is that you finally feel clear. Even the song that's coming up is Suddenly I See. Suddenly I see. And so don't be surprised, because this does happen. And if you have someone in your life who's suddenly making big decisions and changing some things after a loved one passed, that might be part of their personal process and their therapy grieving. They might have that, that sense of, people change when they've encountered loss and death. And sometimes they're like, this has just changed how I want to live my life. And I feel like I haven't been doing certain things, and it's not, what's right for me is that I need to start doing the things I've been wanting to do. I need to stop putting so many things off. That's not uncommon to see. And I'll do some more episodes on things like that as well, if you guys want to hear about it a little bit more. I want to be kind of tender with that too, because sometimes people can kind of go off the deep end after someone passes. So we're not speaking to that necessarily. This is more so like if you were kind of living in a lot of fear and suddenly feel inspired to live out a little bit more of your dreams or live authentically. So that all said, but a lot of times when someone passes, that does happen. People do finally go, you know what, it's time. It's time. I'm going to go do this thing. And sometimes it's that loved one saying, you know what? Yeah, do this or try that or whatever. Don't live in fear, or don't live with grudges the way that I did, or don't live in blah, blah, blah the way that I did. Now, it's up to you whether or not you listen to that, right? We all have free will. But suddenly you might feel a little bit clearer and more inspired afterward as well. And that can be a big sign that they're actually hanging around. And sometimes you might even feel there were things you were holding back on because you thought they might judge you or they might be upset. And suddenly you might feel like they're giving you their blessing. And that can be a really powerful thing as well. Now, also your loved ones, this is kind of fun because they reemerge into this beautiful spiritual form. What they often do is they project these visuals forward so that you can recognize them, can see them, hear them. They remember who they were. They remember all of these lifetimes. And often in a reading, and often when I hear from people who are like, oh my gosh, my grandma came through, she came through young though. Or she came through, one of my favorite experiences was their grandmother came through with purple hair. I've had someone else's grandma come through with like rose gold colored hair. And they were like, do you like it? I finally did it. There were different instances in each of these stories. In one of them, the grandmother had never gotten around to doing the purple hair, but she had always joked about wanting purple hair. And she thought it was so beautiful that other people felt empowered to do that. And, her granddaughter was like, oh my God, that's definitely her. I'm so glad she finally has her purple hair. Like, and then in the other instance, the grandmother had always wanted to do like a rose gold, and they dyed her hair, or were going to dye her hair at the last minute. And it ended up being that their grandmother passed, like the person had run out to the store to grab everything. And the grandmother had passed right before they got back, and they were just devastated over it. And she appreciated that they wanted to do it. And so then this was actually her grandson. And so he dyed his own hair rose gold. So when she came through, she was showing her hair being rose gold. And she was like, look, we match. And he was like, oh my God. Like, and it was very emotional for him. And, so anyway, so she was showing him like, look, I'm getting to be this part of myself that I didn't get to be or experience. And again, they often show up younger. So they will show up as a time period in the clothes with the physical form, the lipstick, dancing, or painting, or driving in an old-fashioned car, with a scarf tied around their head, whatever it is, they will show up with that youthful glow, because that is their favorite time period in their life. That's when they felt their best. Sometimes they'll show up how they were before they got sick with something, or before they went through a life-changing injury or accident or something like that. And it's almost to like show their loved ones like, look, like this is the version of me that I'm taking forward. All these other physical ailments, the age, the illness, the fear, that didn't come with. And so your loved ones, just so you know, they might show up that way, and they are released and freed from all of these other things that they might have had going on when they were alive. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm going to pause this here, and we will have an episode where I answer a whole bunch of people's questions from TikTok and from Patreon, and then listener questions here soon, all about the afterlife, what happens when we pass, all of that good stuff, because I've got a whole backlog of those from videos and from listener questions that people have submitted online and stuff. So I will do that episode here soon. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Keep sending in your questions. I'm excited to answer more of them, and the guides are over here, always happy to help. If you've listened to this stuff before, I hope you still enjoyed this. It's always good to kind of come back and do a refresher from time to time. And I know that a lot of you are loving the episodes with Anna and stuff, but I do want to make sure I'm staying connected to this work, because this is really the heart of what I do. And while I can channel Anna, it actually like vibrationally does take a little bit more out of me. So, and I've noticed it takes a little more out of her too. So she will come back in here soon, and we will do some questions with her as well. I'm trying to figure out a good cadence. And I also am thinking I might actually channel her and put some of the conversation and visions and messages from her maybe in like a little ebook or something like that. So if you guys are interested in that, that has been sort of what's on my mind as like the correct format for that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. And yeah, I hope you guys love this episode of the podcast. Remember, you can submit everything online. Links are in the bio and in the show notes. And yeah, thanks for being here today.